So we continue with the digestive system and we are going to continue with the salivary gland. So the saliva is secreted by three pairs of salivary glands. So we understood that the mouth has got the salivary glands, and these salivary glands are three. Okay, there are three salivary glands present in the mouth. First is called as the parotid gland. The parotid gland located just in front of and beneath each ear. So just in front of beneath the each ear, यहाँ पे inside में यहाँ पे दोनों side पे there will be salivary glands. There is parotid glands. The next is submandibular gland lying close to the inner side of the lower jaw. So inner side of the lower jaw, just under the tongue, inner side of the lower jaw अगर देखेंगे तो maybe inside over here. So that is the inner side of the lower jaw. You will find the submandibular gland, and finally sublingual gland, which is below the tongue. So under the tongue you can see of course you cannot see as such, but yeah, you can see the saliva over there. But anyway, the whole mouth will be full with saliva. But there are the glands which are located, which are the three ones, which is parotid over here, the submandibular, which is lower jaw के नीचे वहाँ पे, and under the tongue, that is the sublingual. Duct from each gland transport the secreted saliva into the mouth. Small quantity of saliva keep secreting at all times. While eating, the salivary flow is considerably increased. Sometimes even the slight smell or just the thought of a tasty food can cause an increased flow of saliva, resulting in watering of the mouth. So yeah, we very well see that, okay, अचानक से कुछ अच्छा smell अगर आएगा, वो पाव भाजी बन रहा है, your mouth automatically starts watering. So that is kind of a thing what you normally be experiencing, that saliva always is being secreted in a small quantity in the mouth, but whenever there is this particular kind of a impulse, or we can say a stimulus which is seen by the body, if you are able to see some good food or you are able to smell some good food, then definitely it is going to, your mouth will start watering much more than regular. Now, how much saliva you normally produce every day is about 1 to 1.5 liters. So about 1000 to 1500 ml, that is enough for filling 5 to 7 empty bottles of any soft drink. We can guess where all these goes, of course into the stomach. Saliva is very slightly acidic. The pH is 6.8. See, we know that the pH of any particular neutral thing is 7. This is 6.8, so it's slightly acidic. Anything which is less than 7 will be acidic, so this is slightly acidic in nature. So acidic fluid containing water about 99%, salt, mucus, and an enzyme salivary amylase, also called as ptyalin. Okay, so P-T-Y-L-I-N-E, उसको pronounce करते ptyalin, P is silent. So that is the salivary amylase. Now the functions of saliva. First of all, there are 7 functions of saliva, very very important. Moistens and lubricates the inner lining of the moral cavity and the surface of the tongue to facilitate speaking and swallowing. So first thing is that it keeps our whole mouth wet. Okay, it is going to keep it moist so that it is easier for us to speak, because while speaking also your tongue and all, it requires the saliva on top of it so that it can slip properly and we are able to speak in a proper manner. So to have a proper thing, because otherwise if the tongue is dry, it will stick to the if by chance the complete mouth is dry, the tongue and all will try to stick to the jaws and everything. So that's why it is always going to be wet. Okay, so saliva helps in keeping it moist. Moistens and lubricates food, which again helps in swallowing. So of course it is going to moisten and lubricate the food. So whatever food we are intaking, that is going to be kept moist, and it is going to keep on lubricating because of this particular saliva. Third, acts as a solvent, dissolving some food particles to stimulate taste buds of the tongue. So in many cases, the taste buds of our body, of the tongue, also are going to be activated by the saliva, because saliva is going to act as a solvent for many food substances, so that it can be very well, the taste of that particular thing can be very well understood. Fourth, helps food particles to stick together to form bolus so that they can be swallowed in a mass. Now we'll always find that when you are chewing the food doesn't go particle wise. It doesn't enter into the body particle wise. It always forms into a ball-like structure. When you keep on chewing the food, it forms into a ball-like structure. So basically, what is happening? The food is getting churned and it is getting combined, it is getting formed into a ball, and that ball is formed because there is this particular stickiness which is present in the saliva, which is helping it to form into a ball like structure. So that it is acting as a bonding agent, okay, a binder for the food material to be stuck together so that the bolus can enter into the body very easily. Fifth, the digest starch, its enzyme ptyalin salivary amylase converts starch into maltose. This explains why if boiled rice is chewed very well, it begins to taste sweet. So this is the first step of digestion. Starch, whenever the starch gets digested the first, because over here the starch ka digestion chalu hota hai right inside the mouth. So that's why when you are eating एक जैसे रोटी खाया या even you take rice का thing and you keep on chewing that thing for a longer period of time in your mouth, you will find that it automatically tastes sweeter. A bread ka piece liya, and if you keep it in the mouth and keep on chewing it for a longer period, then you will find that it will start tasting sweet. But this is because the starch which is present in the rice and all, they are going to get converted. The ptyalin, this is the salivary amylase which is present in the saliva, is going to act upon the starch, and it is going to convert the starch, which we already studied that it was a polymer of glucose molecule. So it is getting converted into almost like a glucose, but not glucose exactly. It is converted into a disaccharide, which is a maltose. So the starch is getting converted into maltose by using the saliva, that is the salivary amylase acting on the starch. Six, it cleans the mouth and tends to destroy germs and prevent to decay. Yes, to a certain extent, saliva is also a good germ killer. It is also going to be acting as an antiseptic. Okay, so that's the reason saliva can be used, is going to also keep the mouth clean and also kill the germs and destroy the germs which are and prevent the tooth decay. And finally, dryness in the mouth due to less water in saliva gives a feeling of thirst to replenish body water. Thus, saliva aids in water balance in the body. So, saliva, when the salivation is less, automatically you come to know, oh, muh ja sukh raha, automatically you feel that, okay, you want to drink water. So, the feeling of thirst is also produced with the help of the process of salivation. So, saliva also helps in understanding the triggering the mechanism of drinking water or feeling thirsty. The next one we are learning is the swallowing and pesto. So now the food has completed its processes in the mouth. So it entered through the lips and went into the mouth, where it was cut and chewed by the teeth, and then the tongue rolled it again. It just churned it and formed into a bolus with the help of the saliva. And now the bolus needs to be intaken inside or swallowed inside. So that is nothing but swallowing and peristalsis. Peristalsis is the movement of the food inside by the the pressing of the muscles over here, so that muscles is pushing it. Like for example, I will take best example peristalsis will be, अगर हम लोग समझे एक छोटा सा ट्यूब लेते हैं और ट्यूब में एक छोटा सा एक बॉल या कुछ डाल दिया, and if I want to draw that ball from one end to another end, what we'll do, we'll press that thing from one end. So it is like this. If I'm having this particular kind of a straw and there is a piece which is stuck over here, what I'll do, I'll press over here and keep on pressing and push this thing downward. So by pressing this inside over here, this goes down. So again pressing inside, it goes down. So again pressing here, it goes down. So ये pressing movement जो हो रहा है, in our throat also such a kind of pressing movement takes place, and this is called as peristalsis. So in swallowing, there are several simultaneous actions. The tongue presses upwards and back against the roof of the mouth, and this forces the bolus, the ball to be chewed in, or the ball of chewed food into the throat or the pharynx. So when we want to chew, when we have chewed the thing properly, then you are going to put that thing into the pharynx. So that is done by the tongue pushing it upwards. So tongue is going to take the support from the top of the jaw, and then it is pushing the food inside. The second is the back part of the roof of the mouth cavity, that is a soft palate, closes the opening between the throat and the nasal passage. Now over here there are two passages. One is the windpipe and another is the food pipe. Now the food should not enter into the windpipe, because if it enters into the windpipe, automatically it could be very dangerous and it could even lead to death. And you will always find that somehow, if suppose even while drinking water, if somebody makes you laugh, what happens, and suddenly you get, the water tries to go inside the windpipe, you automatically start coughing a lot, and you will be, quite obvious है कि वो बहुत खांसने लगोगे. So that is the reason behind this, is that the body itself does not allow any food material or liquid to enter into the windpipe, and due to for that thing, what happens is that when the food is going to be reach over there, at that time there is one kind of blocker which is going to block the windpipe. So the windpipe is going to go up and it is going to block it over here, so that the food has no other space to go but enter into the food pipe. So that's why the back part of the roof or the buccal cavity closes the opening between the throat and the nasal passage. And then the pharynx, that the voice box which is located at the center of the windpipe, is pulled upwards to bring it close to the back of the tongue with a flap called epiglottis. So epiglottis is the flap which is going to close the windpipe and open the food pipe. Closing its opening, thus the only passage available for the swallowed food is that of the gullet or esophagus. Food going the wrong place, if by any chance the food you swallow gets into the windpipe, there is an immediate cuffing to forcibly throw out the wrongly entered substance. The next is the esophagus. The esophagus is a tube which simply conducts the food from the throat to the stomach. So from the throat to the stomach, whatever is the food pipe is called as the esophagus. It passes to the diaphragm close to the backbone. It does not produce any digestive enzyme. So it is just a pathway. It is just a pathway passing through the diaphragm. The diaphragm is over here just below the lungs. So उसमें से pass होगा वो. And it does not produce any kind of enzymes. It is just a pathway for the food to travel. Once the food reaches the esophagus, it is conducted behind by a special movement called peristalsis. Peristalsis is a wave of constriction caused by the circular muscles of the gut pushing the food along. As the wave passes, the circular muscle relaxes and peristalsis occurs through all the region of the gut. So this is how I told you that it presses. There is the compression which is making the food go down, then again a compression which will move food down. So this compression or this particular movement of the muscles over here, which is going to take place within the esophagus, and not only there, throughout the gut, throughout the alimentary canal, the complete food is going to pass through one point to another point by the help of peristalsis movement. The peristalsis occurs through all the region of the gut, the complete region of the gut, the complete region of the alimentary canal. This particular thing of peristalsis is going to take place. Mucus secreted by all the region of the gut is a slimy fluid which lubricates the food. So the food is going to keep on being lubricated by the mucus fluid which is going to be generated by all the parts of the gut. The next comes the stomach. The stomach is an elastic bag located below the diaphragm. It is in an average adult, it can hold 2 to 3 liters of food. Its walls are highly muscular and churns the food thoroughly to mix with the gastric juice secreted by the inner lining. The opening of the stomach into the intestine is called as pylorus. That is pylon, which is gate, and the pylorus means gatekeeper. It has rings of muscle sphincters to keep the opening closed like a valve to prevent food passing from the stomach until it is thoroughly churned up. It also prevents regurgitation from the duodenum. That means a similar sphincter termed cardiac sphincter is present at the front end of the stomach to prevent backflow of the food into the esophagus. So the stomach is a J-shaped bag, elastic bag located just below the diaphragm. Now this stomach which is there is a elastic bag, and it can hold food of up to 2 to 3 liters of food. It can hold 2 to 3 liters of food in it, and main thing is the food is going to be churned by the muscular movement of the stomach. The stomach is going to keep on its inside the stomach there are the muscles which are going to keep on churning the food. And when they are churning the food, they are going to mix the food with the gastric juice which is prepared inside the walls of the stomach. There are two valves, one at the other end of the stomach and one at the front end of the stomach. The front part of the stomach, the other end of the stomach is called the pylorus, which is going to be the gate from where the food is going to then go from the stomach to the intestine. Now that will always remain closed in the normal condition until the food is not churned properly. It will not open up for the food to enter into the intestine or the duodenum. And the other one is the one which is connected to the esophagus. So there is one valve which is connected to the esophagus, so that the food does not have the pathway to backflow, बाहर नहीं निकलेगा. So unless an important condition like vomiting अगर हुआ तो ही वो valve open up होता है. Otherwise that valve will not allow. So that's the reason even after having a heavy meal, if you lie down, it is not going to happen that the food will start coming upwards. Okay, or even if you do upward down और भी करोगे अपने upside down भी हो जाओगे तो भी the food is not going to come easily outside. But yes, there are conditions like vomiting. Sometimes when the stomach is overloaded or disturbed, vomiting occurs in which the cardiac sphincter opens and a reverse wave of muscular contraction, antiparesthesis, is caused, throwing the content out through the mouth. So when there is a kind of a problem with the stomach, and that's why it is not able to hold on the food because it is either overloaded or there is some kind of infection over there, then there will be the opening of this cardiac sphincter muscle, and that will open up, and the antiparesthetic, that is upward movement of the food, will take place, and the vomiting is happens. Now inside the stomach, you can see the gastric juice is secreted by the inner lining of the stomach. So the inner lining of the stomach, there is the production of gastric juice, and it is colorless, highly acidic liquid containing water, some salts, hydrochloric acid, and an enzyme called pepsin. So the gastric juice mainly contains water, and apart from water it also contains some salts, and mainly it contains hydrochloric acid. So why is it acidic in nature? Because of the presence of hydrochloric acid in the gastric juice. So, and also along with these there is also one more enzyme which is called as pepsin. So the acid serves two purposes. So the gastric juice made to acid, right, is going to work for two main reasons. So the main purpose for the acid is, firstly, is it kills any germs which maybe have entered along with the food, and second, it activates pepsin to act on protein. So the first thing is that in case the food has got any kind of germs, then the acid is going to kill those germs and protecting the body from that. And secondly, the acid is also going to be activating the pepsin so that it can act on the proteins. Pepsin digests proteins about 20% only into peptides. In fact, the pepsin is first secreted as pepsinogen, which is then changed to pepsin by the hydrochloric acid. So first of all, what happens is there is an inactive part of it is pepsinogen. So pepsinogen is inactive, and this inactive pepsinogen is going to be activated by the HCl which is present in the gastric juice and get converted into pepsin. So the pepsinogen gets converted into pepsin and it activates it. So now it is active in nature. This active pepsin is going to work on the protein. So proteins, when this protein is going to come in contact with this pepsin, so when it is acted by the pepsin, then the protein is going to get converted into peptides. So it is going to convert into peptides, and you can see that is only 20% digestion of the protein is going to take place over here. And similarly, there is another which is a compound which is called as prorenin. So the prorenin is going to be activated by HCl and it is going to get converted into renin. Okay, prorenin becomes renin, and then the milk protein which is called as casein, that is milk protein, is going to be acted by the renin, and also it is going to become paracasein. Okay, paracasein, a peptide which is insoluble. So this is how the first stage of digestion, that is breaking down of the proteins, is going to take place in the stomach with the help of the gastric juice. The food stays in the stomach for about 3 hours and it attains a pulp-like form called as the chyme. Now the pylorus opens intermediately to allow the chyme to move to the intestine little by little. So as the churning process keeps on taking place, little by little the pylorus is going to open up and the food material will go into the small intestine. So the next stage of the digestive part is the small intestine. The small intestine is a tube of about 7 meter long and 2.5 centimeter wide. So it's a very thin, 2.5 centimeter thin tube, but it is very long, 7 meter long. Okay, very huge. This is 1 meter. Okay, this much is just 1 meter. So अगर ये 1 meter है, वैसे 7 meters यानी उतना लंबा है. So it is so coiled and super coiled inside the stomach, the area. It is coiled and folded in the abdomen. Its 3 subregions are as follows: duodenum, short upper part next to stomach. Dio means 12 finger width in length, and dio is 2 and den is 10, so that is 2 plus 10. So duodenum means for 10, 12. So it is 12 fingers. So it is like if this is 8 and this is another. So this much is the length of the duodenum. So duodenum, a very small part of the 7 meter long small intestine. Now next one is jejunum. Next short region of about 2 meters is jejunum, means empty. Now jejunum means empty, and why is it named jejunum is because normally when our dead body is taken for post-mortem, it is this particular part will always be usually empty. So because it is nearly always empty after death as found in dissection or in post-mortem. Ileum, about 4 meter. Ileum means to twist, roll, or referring to twisting movements of this part. The inner lining of the ileum is made into great number of tiny finger-like projections called villi. So if I talk about the ileum, so the ileum is this way, that if this is the walls of the ileum, the walls of the ileum are like this. So there will be finger-like projections over here inside the ileum, and these finger-like projections are called as villi. So the inner lining of the ileum is made up of great number of finger-like projections called the villi, or singularly called as villus. The villi enormously increases the inner surface area of the intestine, nearly 8 times that of an outer body surface. So this what happens is that here you can see that otherwise the surface area which was available was only this much. But now the surface area available is 8 times more. You can see all this is the surface area which is going to come in contact with the food material for absorption of the food. So the ileum has got this villi which is going to be like this, something like this. So this whole area is available for the absorption. So that increases the surface area for absorption. So the villi enormously increase the inner surface area of the intestine nearly 8 times that of the outer body surface, which facilitate the absorption of digested food. Between the villi are small holes through which the intestinal juice secreted by granular cells is poured into the lumen of the intestine. So into the lumen of the intestine are the pore. यहाँ से there will be juices which are given out by the intestinal juice which is given out. Each villus is covered by a single cell thick epithelium. So each and every ileum will be like this. It will be having a single celled epithelium. So this will be the single cell epithelium which is going to be on the outermost part over here. Single cell epithelium. Why? Because single cell epithelium is बहुत thin है, so the transfer of the nutrients is easy. So it's a single cell epithelium. Yeah. Inside the villus are contained an artery, a vein, and so inside there will be an artery which is getting converted into a vein also. So that is getting converted into a vein like this. So there is an artery and a vein over here, and there will be some capillaries which will be having over here connected like this. And then inside is a one which is connected like this, which is the lacteal. So this is a lacteal which is connected over here at the bottom. So the blood capillaries and a lymph vessel called lacteal. The small intestine serves both for digestion and absorption. So digestion also takes place and absorption. Why? Because all these are the areas where the food is going to be absorbed and taken in by the capillaries or the arteries and the veins of the blood. It receives two digestive juices, the bile and the pancreatic juice in the duodenum, and its own walls secrete the intestinal juice in the ileum. So there in this small intestine there are going to be three juices which are going to be put in. The first are the two juices coming, one from the bile juice coming from the liver, and another one is the pancreatic juice coming from the pancreas. Apart from that, the inside of the ileum there is always the intestinal juice which is generated by the intestine itself. So that are the juices which are going to enter into the small intestine. Now talking about the adaptations, we can see the adaptation of ileum for absorption of digested food. So you can see that why is this of the shape is for basically it is the adaptation is required so that you have maximum surface area for absorption of the food. So you can see it is very long, more surface area provided. So by being very long and being a position like this, so the surface area provided is large. The large number of villi further increases the surface area of the absorption. So first thing is that the small intestine is 7 meter long. इतना लंबा है कि अपने आप उसका surface area बढ़ेगा. Secondly is that here it has got this villi which is further increase the surface area much more for absorption. Third, it has got a single cell epithelium. The epithelium is single cell so that it is easy to transfer of the nutrients. And finally, it is narrow which slows the movement of the food, thereby allowing absorption. You can see that this particular small intestine is just 2.5 centimeter thick. 2.5 centimeter. You can take it to a scale and find out it is very small. It is just this much. 2.5 centimeter is hardly this much. So अगर ये इतना छोटा अगर रहेगा तो automatically what will happen? It will have the food to be passing through very slowly because it's very narrow. The food will pass very slowly. When the food passes slowly, it will go all the time to absorb the food nutrients from the food material. So absorption is much easier with the help of this adaptation which are there of the ileum. Okay, now we talk about the different juices which are going to be entering into the small intestine in the next video.